When the music video for Risk It All premiered at midnight, fans didn't just see a new song, they witnessed a reintroduction. After nearly a decade without a solo studio album, Bruno Mars stepped back into the spotlight with a quiet intensity that felt both nostalgic and daringly new. Within hours, social media feeds were flooded with one question: has Bruno Mars just reset the standard for modern romance in pop music? The Grammy-winning superstar has officially released his long-awaited album The Romantic, marking his first full solo project since 2016's blockbuster 24K Magic. Alongside the album, Bruno Mars unveiled the cinematic video for Risk It All, a sweeping ballad that leans into timeless devotion rather than radio-ready bravado. The rollout signals more than just a new era, it underscores Bruno Mars' continued evolution as one of the most influential artists in American pop and R&B. Born Peter Gene Hernandez in Honolulu, Hawaii, Bruno Mars grew up immersed in music. From performing as a child Elvis impersonator to writing hits for other artists in Los Angeles, his early career was built on relentless work behind the scenes. Before he became a global headliner, he co-wrote chart toppers like Right Round for Flo Rida and Wavin' Flag for Kanon. That songwriter's discipline remains central to his artistry today. His breakthrough arrived with 2010's Doo-Wops Hooligans, an album that introduced the world to his retro-modern sensibility. Songs like Just the Way You Are and Grenade established him as a vocalist capable of balancing vulnerability with theatrical flair. The success continued with Unorthodox Jukebox and later 24K Magic, which swept the 2018 Grammy Awards, winning Album of the Year and cementing Bruno Mars as a generational performer. His ability to channel funk, soul, R&B, and pop into something unmistakably contemporary became his trademark. Yet after the massive success of 24K Magic, Bruno Mars largely stepped back from solo releases. Instead, he re-emerged in 2021 as part of Silk Sonic with Anderson, .Paak, releasing An Evening with Silk Sonic. The project was a love letter to 70s soul, earning critical acclaim and multiple Grammy Awards. Industry insiders say that collaboration reignited his passion for live instrumentation and analog warmth, elements now fully realized in The Romantic. The new album feels intentional. Where 24K Magic celebrated flash and swagger, The Romantic is quieter, more introspective. Risk It All, the centerpiece single, unfolds as a slow-burning declaration of commitment. The production draws from classic R&B balladry, layered with orchestral strings and subtle gospel harmonies. The accompanying music video amplifies that message, portraying a wedding narrative infused with cultural textures, including scenes featuring a live mariachi ensemble. It is cinematic without being extravagant, emotional without being melodramatic. Music critic John Caramanica of The New York Times recently described Bruno Mars as a preservationist who understands that nostalgia only works if it feels alive. That sentiment echoes across this new era. Instead of chasing trends dominated by algorithm-driven hooks, Bruno Mars leans into craftsmanship, live drums, real horns, unhurried melodies. The risk is clear in an industry obsessed with viral moments, but that risk is precisely the point. Producer and longtime collaborator Philip Lawrence has previously emphasized Mars' meticulous process. Bruno doesn't release anything unless it feels timeless, Lawrence once noted in an interview. He's obsessed with structure, melody, and emotion. Insiders close to the project suggest that The Romantic underwent multiple revisions over several years, with Mars personally fine-tuning arrangements late into the night. That perfectionism has often delayed releases, but it has also preserved his reputation for quality. The impact of Bruno Mars on American pop culture extends far beyond album sales. He has helped revive mainstream interest in funk and classic R&B at a time when electronic pop and hip-hop dominated the charts. His Super Bowl halftime performances in 2014 and 2016 remain among the most watched in history, praised for their live energy and vocal precision. Younger artists frequently cite him as proof that showmanship still matters. Culturally, Bruno Mars occupies a unique space. As a multiracial artist of Puerto Rican and Filipino heritage, he has navigated conversations about genre authenticity and cultural appreciation. Critics have occasionally questioned his deep engagement with Black musical traditions, yet many veteran musicians have defended him, pointing to his respect for the craft and his collaborations within the community. Questlove once remarked publicly that Mars studies the music, honors it, and performs it with integrity. That respect has allowed him to bridge generational and cultural divides. With The Romantic, Bruno Mars appears to be shifting the conversation again, this time toward emotional sincerity. In an era where irony often dominates pop lyrics, his new material leans earnestly into devotion and vulnerability. Songs explore long-term commitment, sacrifice, and adult love rather than fleeting attraction. It's a thematic pivot that aligns with his own growth. Now in his 40s, Mars seems less interested in party anthems and more focused on storytelling rooted in maturity. Commercially, early streaming data suggests strong global engagement. The music video for Risk It All generated millions of views within its first 24 hours, trending across platforms in the United States and internationally. Industry analysts predict that the album could debut near the top of the Billboard 200, bolstered by physical vinyl sales, a format Mars has consistently supported. His audience, spanning millennials who grew up with his early hits to Gen Z discovering him through Silk Sonic, reflects unusual longevity. Behind the glamour, however, lies a lesser-known reality about Bruno Mars' work ethic. Band members have described rehearsals that run for 10 to 12 hours, with Mars insisting on precision down to the smallest horn accent. Former touring musicians recount how he often pays bonuses to crew members after particularly successful runs, reinforcing a culture of loyalty within his camp. It's a detail rarely highlighted in headlines, but central to understanding his sustained success. There's also the business dimension. Bruno Mars has quietly expanded into Las Vegas residencies, securing one of the most lucrative performance deals in recent years. Those shows, blending high production with intimate storytelling, allowed him to refine material in front of live audiences long before official releases. Observers say some early versions of the romantic tracks were tested during these performances, evolving based on crowd reaction. The broader industry effect of this album may be subtle but significant. As streaming shortens attention spans, major artists releasing cohesive, conceptually unified albums become rarer. By delivering a tightly curated project centered on a singular emotional theme, Bruno Mars challenges that norm. He reminds labels and listeners that albums can still function as complete narratives rather than playlists of disconnected singles. For YouTube audiences, the visual component is equally important. The Risk It All video emphasizes narrative continuity, lush cinematography, and live musicianship. It contrasts sharply with minimalist performance clips dominating current trends. In doing so, Bruno Mars reinforces his brand, polished, intentional, rooted in musical heritage yet unmistakably modern. Ultimately, the release of The Romantic is not just another chapter in a successful career. It is a recalibration. Bruno Mars has never been the most prolific artist of his generation, but he may be among the most precise. Each era arrives fully formed, each performance feels rehearsed to perfection, each song carries echoes of the past while pointing forward. As the industry watches closely, one truth becomes evident: Bruno Mars continues to thrive by resisting urgency. He waits, he refines, he returns when the work feels ready, and when he does, the cultural conversation shifts. Looking ahead, questions remain about touring plans and potential collaborations. Will this era include another stadium tour, a stripped-down residency, or perhaps a surprise partnership that once again redefines genre boundaries? Whatever path he chooses, the trajectory is clear. Bruno Mars is not merely revisiting romance, he is redefining it for a new decade. In a music landscape that moves at relentless speed, longevity is rare. Relevance is even rarer. Yet Bruno Mars has mastered both, blending technical excellence with emotional accessibility. If The Romantic proves anything, it is that authenticity still resonates. And as long as he continues to balance reverence for the past with courage in the present, Bruno Mars' influence on American pop culture is likely to endure for years to come. Grammy-winning superstar Bruno Mars has entered a bold new chapter with the release of his latest album, The Romantic, highlighted by the emotional single Risk It All. Known for his electrifying performances and retro-inspired hits, Bruno Mars now shifts toward a more intimate, soul-driven sound, marking his first full solo studio album in nearly a decade. This release is more than just new music. It represents a defining moment in the evolution of Bruno Mars as an artist. From his early days as a hit-making songwriter to becoming one of the most decorated performers of his generation, Bruno Mars has consistently blended classic R&B influences with modern pop appeal. With The Romantic, he leans into live instrumentation, cinematic storytelling, and themes of devotion and vulnerability, offering American audiences a refreshing contrast to today's fast-paced, algorithm-driven music culture. Why does this matter? Because Bruno Mars has long been a cultural bridge between eras, reviving timeless sounds while dominating contemporary charts. This album signals maturity, artistic risk, and a potential shift in the landscape of mainstream pop. Watch our full breakdown for exclusive insights, industry reactions, and what this means for the future of Bruno Mars and American music.